Hello everybody and welcome back to Chapter Tactics. I am your host, Magikarp Use Fly, and with me today we have our regular co-host with Demeki.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
You sound so sad. Every single time I introduce you, you sound sadder and sadder.
It's what I do before I get here.
Yeah.
That makes me sadder and sadder.
We also got a John P.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
That's it. Man, okay, Adam, give me something.
That wasn't sad, was it? I didn't sound sad.
You sounded happier. You sounded happier.
Yeah.
And we also have special guest, Adam Camillari.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm happy to be here. Feel very welcome to be here, rather.
Boom. See,
Sorry,
now that's an intro. Look at that.
I recorded one of my shows today, and so I almost welcomed you onto your own show. That's to professionalism.
Oh.
Welcome.
And then we also have the one, the only, Skari.
Yeah, I watched a Tantalus die this week, and I was very sad.
You talking about mine?
Yep.
Dude, that was a crazy game. That was a good game. It was good. So for today, we are talking about 40k in review, just all the stuff that's happened in 40k over this past year, all the codexes that were released and all that good stuff. Before we go on any further, I just want to apologize for the last episode. There was like no structure in that one. We totally phoned that episode in, so apologies on that one. It's actually really hard to find units that are really bad because I don't know, like the way that I look at 40k, I feel like that every unit can be good, as long as like you know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
It's like art, you know.
Man, I could give you 10 from the Imperial Guard book by itself.
Okay, name
Hey,
three
I
right
said
now.
TAC Marines, and I still
Name three right now.
Yeah, name three
Okay.
right now. They have
The
to be the absolute worst. Absolute
The
worst.
two, all right. The Devil Dog and the Bane Wolf, which,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
The
Haven't seen them in
Hydra,
years.
Flak Tank, any Sentinel
Terrible.
variant,
Yeah.
There's two
Scout-
variants. That's
Scout
5,
ones,
boys.
Those are amazing.
That's
That's
true.
5 already, straight off the top.
Okay. All right. Scar, you got any?
In terms of like for Astra Militarum or just
Just
any
in general,
anyone
in general.
Units that you never see.
No,
wait a
just
minute.
terrible
I've got-
units.
Beast pack units, like out of all the Drukari stuff, you'll like beast packs. They're terrible.
I've got 2 more.
All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Lehman Rush Vanquishers, Lehman Rush Eradicators, Lehman Rush Eliminate. What's the autocannon one?
Anything? Wait, is it a
Exterminators?
demolisher? Is it a
No, no.
demolisher?
No,
Then it's
no.
not good.
Then it's not good. Yeah. It's pretty much it.
I think.
I'm up to 8, boys.
Nice.
I think that the problem here is that neither one of us three play Astra Militarum, and that's
That's
like,
true. That's true.
That's like a
It's so-
really
it's got so many options in it, and you
Yeah, I
see
know.
like 4 of them.
yeah. You
Yeah.
look at the Space Marines units that they have, and there's like an entire like library of units, and I'm just like I can't look at all of these. There's so much information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like in terms of like bad units though, there's always gonna be like that one person who's like, oh, I used that unit, I had some success with it,
Yeah.
and that's just,
True.
yeah,
That's true.
it's always gonna
all
be the case no matter what.
you know?
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
Subjective and objective, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, for today's episode, we are talking about the year of 40k in review. But before we move on over to that, this show is brought to you by FrontlineGaming.org, where you can get amazing game mats for not just your 40k games, but almost any tabletop game out there. Purchase miniatures at a discount and join some of the largest 40k events in the industry. They also have the largest 40k podcasting network in the business, with shows like Signals from the Frontline, Chapter Tactics, which you're listening to right now, Grim After Dark, and so much more. That's frontlinegaming.org, or you can click on the link in the description of this podcast on all the social media goodies out there. And if you listen to the FLG podcast, you'll also recognize Adam here on the Thursday show.
Nice, you got it in there. Yes, I am on the Thursday show. You can catch us on Thursdays. We talk stats and we hype up your weekend's worth of 40k goodness.
Are you sure
really
it's on
like that show.
Thursdays? Even though it's on Thursdays, are you sure it's on Thursdays? It's not on Saturdays or Sundays.
No, well, it was really weird because I used to record it on Fridays when I was in Australia. And
Yeah.
So I tell people I gotta go do my Thursday show thing at lunchtime because it,
Oh
it was
yeah, because y'all are a day ahead, right? And you're trying to
Yeah,
plan the
yeah.
release for us, or
Exactly
well,
right.
not just us, but the UK and Europe and shit too.
So yeah, I'd record it at midday on my Friday, and it would be really hard to explain sometimes.
I can feel that. I can feel that. All right, guys. Let's talk about 40k over the course of a year. We're in December now. Last year, do you guys want to give a roundabout of what happened last year? Skari, you want to take that away of what happened last year?
This
in
last
40K?
year or last year?
Last 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
2020, not 2021. Well, other than a couple of releases here and there, it didn't feel like much. We had a couple of events. It was like supply chain stuff and things closing and whatnot. In terms of like units and things that got released or codex that got released, it wasn't really that many, to be honest. I think it was more around, 2021 when stuff really started getting going.
Yeah, because 2020 was what's it called? 9th edition launched, right? In 2020? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it's a new it was in 2019. It was like LVO 2019 and then it kind of turned into restrictions and stuff. And then there was the release of 9th, and it was like a limbo place. I remember going to play at Dustin's house and like practicing 9th edition when it just released, and it was literally like it was like your bubble was like really small, whatever. But yeah, I remember that, and then Space Marines came out, I believe, in that time.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah,
which was weird because it was like they got released late 2018. So it was like it was so soon. They got released so quickly, and it was totally different. Iron Hands were no longer a thing.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people appreciated that one. Coming from 8th edition with the Brohammer list of like Leviathan dreadnoughts just causing so much mayhem. And then they released Indominus, and we had that great Necron box with the Space Marines, so that was really cool. Going into this year, though, we got our first book, the first codex that came out, and we're talking about not the Dark Angels, the Death Guard. I feel like that Demeki, you can talk about this one a little bit on what happened after that came out.
I was super excited for it, but everybody was throwing a fit because we lost Disgustingly Resilient. Well, we didn't lose it. It changed. It was no longer a 5-up Feel No Pain. It went to -1 damage. And then our Plague Marines got an additional wound, so they went to 2 wounds. And our Terminators went to 3 wounds. Mortarion got a huge buff. He got a huge glow up. Plague Burst Crawlers no longer had a minimum range and a maximum range. It was just 1 range. And like the whole army got a glow up. All the demonic engines hit on 3s. It was just such a great codex. And I feel like it still is a good codex, even with everything new that's coming out or it has come out. Death Guard can really hold their own still. It's just like they're missing like one little thing to like put them over, it feels like right now.
Well, in terms of the gameplay and whatnot, and just going quickly Death Guard, for anybody out there who's wondering, I think the new missions are really going to help Death Guard. And I cannot wait to break this down in future episodes when we dissect the episodes and whatnot. Yeah,
definitely. Adam, do you have anything that you want to add on to Death Guard releasing?
Yeah, I was a really big fan of the Death Guard book, and I still am a really big fan of the Death Guard book. To be honest, this is going to be a weird take, but I think it is the quintessential 9th edition codex. It is what I wish they were all at the level of. It's got
I agree with that.
relatively good internal balance. It's got jank and depth in the stratagems, the Wall of Traits, and the relics, and nothing's over the top. It's just like a good even spread across. I wish Plague Marines were a little bit better. Like I wish they didn't have their stupid data sheet that makes them take like one of everything. Like you could make them homogenous.
So ridiculous.
I know. I wish you could build them for a purpose. Like here's my heavy support ones. Here's my ones that are going to go up with all the axes and the flails and whatnot. But instead you got this weird hodgepodge unit. But apart from them, like the books are pretty much a home run for me, and it's still pretty saucy. Like it's still one of the most taken factions of any in the game because it is. Yeah. A bit of a dream for a general because it gets better the deeper you go into it. Yep. So I'm a big fan.
It has depth, and I love the fact that all of the fluff nuts out there, like it plays very much like how you would expect a Death Guard army to play. Like it's slow, it's lumbering, it's tough, and it has the ability to do damage in weird places, and it feels very Death Guardy. Yeah.
Yep. I think one thing that was super big when Death Guard came out. It was like obviously the glow up of Morty, and after that, everyone was like, "All right, how do I kill Morty? How do we kill Morty?
Yeah.
How do you deal with Morty?" Like everyone and their moms were making videos about what they can do to deal with Morty. And that was the hot
Just AP
topic.
-1, dude. Just put him on that invul save. AP -1.
Yeah, I remember when Morty came out, that was like the biggest boogeyman that everyone was scared about because like before that, you had Blood Angels, you had Space Wolves, you had Necrons, you had Space Marines. There was there was like no arguments about codex creep during that time, and then Death Guard came out, and it was just like, wow, how do we deal with Morty?
Well, there was a lot of Math Hammer articles about Morty.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you that
Yeah.
much. And something that was really cool was, well, Space Marines came out, and then everything got core. And I'm pretty sure Necrons came out very soon after, right? Like they were
time.
almost
It was the same time. Yeah, it was dual
and
release.
nothing got core. And there was this whole big thing about core being like a keyword. And so everybody was, I remember Death Guard being like, okay, so the things that we expected to get core got core. And then I feel like they changed the role of like cultists, for example, where they were like, cultists aren't OBSEC. And so instead of just taking cultists as like your basic troop, they were like pushing the use of Poxwalkers for Death Guard as like the mainstay troop choice, where and I like that dynamic. It was a cool dynamic to see at the time, even though it took a while for people to kind of adjust their. I just want to take min cultist units for my troops, and then as many Terminators as I can, which is what used to be the Death Guard way.
Yeah. I think that it was also very interesting because with the release of Death Guard, it really changed how people played the game at that point. Because everybody was trying to figure out how to kill Morty. How do I deal with Plague Burst Crawlers? How do I deal with DSTs? Stuff like that.
The funniest bit was when we figured out that the way to kill Morty, also the way to beat Morty, was to ignore Morty. It's be like, it's fine. He's just going to kill. Maybe he'll kill one thing a turn. Maybe. But those PBCs will kill 2, maybe 3 things. And so they were actually way more of the problem than what Mortarion ended up being. Because trying to solve the problem didn't end up being worth it. You had to tilt your list so hard to like kill him quickly and efficiently that you're just like, whatever.
yeah, definitely.
I'll just go about my business.
Yeah, and I feel like that when that happened, eradicators were still pretty big at that time, right?
It's true.
They just became more big. Plasma, stuff like that became more relevant during that time period, just because people were just trying to figure out how to deal with that -1 damage, how to deal with all those what else does Death Guard have? Stench vats, things like that. Just like so much crazy stuff. Yeah. John P, you have anything that you want to add on to Death Guard?
I mean, Stench Bat's most OP last fight in the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially when it's protected by bodyguards.
What about the top 4s that we have? Do you want to go over that?
Yeah, so I gathered some numbers from 40kstats.com, and this is up to date as of October, so we might be missing a few, but since the Death Guard Codex release, they have done 29. They have placed top 4 29 times in any like majors or GTs, according to 40kstats.com.
Ooh,
that's actually pretty good.
That's about like 3 or 4 a month.
Yeah, that's pretty balanced. That's coming from an army where like when it first released, people were just going crazy about it. 29 top 4 finishes. That's pretty good.
I can tell you, as doing the stats for the Thursday show every week, Death Guard are pretty much always on the podium for the faction representation. So they always seem to be one of the most taken factions at any given event, and this is almost worldwide. In the UK, it seems to be a little bit more, and they're just everywhere. They're just really prevalent. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think it goes with what you were saying, where the book is just like probably the most balanced book of 9th edition, or at least like the most
it's what you wish your 9th edition book was.
Yeah, it's like the middle. It's the middle of the road. Like this is what things should aspire to be like, right? Going after Death Guard, we've got Dark Angels, another book that Demeki, another army that Demeki owns. Demeki, you want to talk about Dark Angels real quick?
Yeah, I'm just going to say all my armies, I just went with the rule of cool. So that's how I ended up with all these codexes. So I just got super lucky. So Dark Angels, when they came out, the first thing that I noticed was the Terminators. They had basically a built-in transhuman physiology, so it made them disgusting. Then they also got one of the probably the best secondary in the game. I pick an objective, I sit here and I collect 15 points. Good luck trying to get me off of it. They got the death guard, or not death guard. I'm having a brain fart. The Deathwing got a huge glow up. Ravenwing, I felt like they got okay, but I mean, like right now, Deathwing is where it's at when it comes to Dark Angels in this new book. They got some fluffy stratagems, especially when it comes to plasma. But other than that, I felt like it was like a missed opportunity, especially for Dark Angels, especially when it comes to Ravenwing. I just feel like Ravenwing didn't get much out of that book, but Deathwing got a lot.
I certainly agree and disagree. Well, so I certainly think that Deathwing got the relevant stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got the same amount of stuff, but the stuff that Deathwing got was so much more relevant to like winning and playing a game of 9th edition.
Right.
Than the I've really come around to the Ravenwing stuff recently, just being like, oh well, I just got to go fast because Drukari go fast, so I have to go fast. And if they're going to force a speed game, I have to go where the speed is. And I've found some decent builds there, like some good stuff. I mean, Telemasters, you can't really go wrong. But what really came out of those two codexes was the concept of the bus stop list, of the standing still, not interacting with your opponent, not participating in the game, and getting a huge score somehow. And that was really personified by the Deathwing build, by that Stubborn Defiance, Oath of Moment combination, or the Stubborn Defiance While We Stand We Fight, or to the last combination. And we got this thing where the game just got a little bit boring for a bit.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I agree with that too. I think that another big thing that these codexes really showed was just how powerful secondaries can be, right? Like before this, we had Space Wolf secondaries that were kind of okay. Or mostly garbage, but you know they're okay-ish. Blood Angels, okay. Necrons, you have Reverse Herd the Prey, right? Space Marines, you had Oaths of Moment, but Dark Angels, Stubborn Defiance being like one of the best missions, or one of the best codex secondaries in the entire game. That was huge for people because it meant so much to just have a secondary that you can just take all the time.
Yep.
Just sit here and I'm going to get all my points. And, oh, you want to try and shoot me? Well, good luck getting through all of us really quickly. Oh, you want to get close? Yeah, we're Terminators. We're still going to punch you really hard. Yeah. So, definitely,
Yeah.
Oh, one died. Here's my apothecary on bike.
That's every Space Marine. And by the way, before they FAQ'd the whole bring back an ATV, that was hilarious. Bring back
I forgot that was a thing.
Model.
Yeah. There was
that was last year though. But
that was last year. 100%. I'm just saying that at least you didn't get that level. And I like the versatility of it, and I feel like Dark Angels have the potential to be such a fantastic Chaos Space Marine army.
There it is.
So your Chaos,
there it is.
You're worried about not having 2 wounds? Well, I have a solution for you.
Yeah, just play Dark Angel.
I think that was also one of the biggest disappointments of this year was that when they released the rules for the Fallen, it didn't change. Literally, they said there were going to be changes. Then the White Dork came out, and there was like no changes.
It could have been really awesome, couldn't it?
Yeah. And that's what we ended up with.
That's what we hope for next year. Santa Claus.
All right, John P. You want to put in your final thoughts about Dark Angels and tell us their win rates or their top 4 finishes.
Yeah, so according to 40kstats.com, ever since the release of Dark Angels, they have finished top 4 a grand total of 23 times as of October.
Interesting.
Pretty good.
Yeah, just a little less than Death Guard, but
yeah.
I feel like they can score points, right? Like they can score points. So even in terrible matchups, like historically, you could just sit on objectives and get points. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing them like doing decently at events.
Yeah.
Because even if you lose, you're not going to lose big.
Nah.
All right. Next up, we have the biggest boogeyman that people have been the most upset about throughout this entire year of 40k, and we've got the Drukari. The Drukari. Skari's already flexing right here. You know what? Go ahead and spill the beans about Drukari and what happened.
I think the release of that codex speaks for itself, but within like 2 weeks, they had like a 75 or 77% win rate at like competitive levels. And it wasn't just the win rate, it was what we call T-Whip, which is like tournaments in winning position, which is having at least, I believe, 4 wins before you get your first loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their T-Whip was incredibly high. Like, you would have 10% of the meta was Drukari, right? So, like, if you had a 70-person event, 7 people would play Drukari, and out of those 7 people, almost all of them would go at least 4 games before losing their first game.
And then they'd all play themselves in round 4, round 5, and yeah.
So let's just say that right off the bat, like, there was definitely some glaring like balance issues with the list. But it's not just the faction. Like, the book itself is written amazingly if you love the Drukari. Like, everything is like cool. You want to use these cool different units, but there's just some options that were much better than others in the tournament scene. And so all you saw was Strife, Blackheart, and then it came on
release. It was Dark Technomancers, and it was utterly extra obnoxious.
It was all the liquefy guns that got like boosted and whatnot, and then right away they released that supplement, the Strife supplement in the campaign book, that literally took witches to like a new level, right? And then you had super cheap succubuses combined with speed and mobility, combined with lots of OBSEC, combined with great amount of attacks for very, very cheap. And they just ended up playing 9th edition, and every book out there was like in their back pocket. And so it's taken a while. Now people have started to learn how to play against it, but even now they still have like almost a 70% win rate on average.
Yeah.
And as a Drukari player who loves the faction, I want my faction to be more shit. Sorry, pardon my language.
You want it to be Death Guard. You want it to be
I don't
Death
want
Guard.
it. Yeah, I do not want it to be so good. It's one of my pet peeves because I love the faction, but I hate being judged for it. I've been playing longer than some people have been alive. So you know what?
I remember the funny thing is when I picked up the book in 8th edition, I was looking at it. I was like, man, this artwork is cool. So I bought that book at the same time I bought my Tau book, and I had already said I was going to play Tau as my army. Yeah. And then when 9th edition, I never got to play it during 8th, I don't think. And then the 9th edition book came out, and then the Charodon came out almost at the same time. And I remember reading through the Charodon, and I was like, why? Like, they're already good. Okay, I'll take it. Thanks.
You know what I remember? I think that this was like before 9th edition came out. I think that like GW dropped this a field manual where it made, I think it was like racks or something, incredibly cheap. It was like you could bring
8-point rack
20.
And 20
bikes.
Flesh, and you could like resurrect them for like 2 CP, bring the whole unit back for 2 CP.
That was funny. That was a good time.
Weren't Reavers also like 10, 20 points also?
Yeah.
Or a little
10
bit?
points. 10-point Reavers. That was definitely a typo.
Yeah.
Adam, you got anything that you want to add on about Drukari?
So first and foremost, I'll say that Drukari may just be in the top 3 best codexes in the history of 40k.
Yeah,
that's up there with the 5th edition Grey Knight book
and 3.5
and the 3.5 Chaos book. Yeah. It's possibly that good. It's possibly that good, guys, because the
go down in infamy.
It's gonna go down in history. It's had 9 months now. Sorry, it's at 10 months now.
Yeah.
Where it's been through. It's been through 3 major iterations of the archetype. First one being Dark Techno, then the one we got for a good 7 or 8 months being the one we just left, being the Ultra MSU. I am just more efficient and have more stuff than you'll ever have. And now we're into the thick city. And it's never been knocked off its perch. It's been equaled by AdMech, but never knocked off. And I think it's insane when we're going to look back on this edition to just be like, how did this one book just have so much life in it, so much gas?
Yeah.
X fault.
Jumpy, you want to add on anything?
Yeah, I mean, during that whole super long run, the main goal that everyone was trying to math hammer is what can pop a raider, what can kill things inside. If you couldn't pop a raider and kill things inside, you lose.
Yeah. I also think that was like one of the first times that we saw D3+3 damage, right? Well, besides Redemptors, I think.
Entropy cannons.
And Entropy cannons, yeah. But this was like
On
D3+3 damage on literally everything. And it was
how many Dark
crazy.
Lances you have? 15 or 16? Oh,
That's actually a really good point, because it was an obvious paradigm shift between when the Necron and Necron and Marine codexes were written, and then these next ones. Because like a las cannon for Admech is D3+3, but the same las cannon for Marines is D6. And like you talk about like Doomstalkers and Doomsday Arcs for Necrons and not being D3+3, but every other equivalent to that in every other book is D3+3. Yeah, there's obviously been a shift between the writings of those books.
And like what was interesting was that this was a direct answer to something like your Death Guard that had -1 damage. People were trying to figure out what can kill off, DSTs, what can be something that can hurt PBCs, and D3+3 was the answer for it. And everyone was running these raiders, and they knocked like Death Guard right off their perch of just being this monstrosity that people could not deal with. And then Drukari just came in and was like, hold my beer, right? All right, John P., how about you tell us what the top 4 finishes are for this one?
All right, Drukari. I didn't count this one. I copy and pasted it. Yeah, I copy pasted this, put it into a line counter. Came out to 70 top 4s as of October.
Oh my God.
I'm sure they are approaching 100.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's skin crawlingly good. Like
they are really fun to play. I mean, they really are.
Yeah, and I think this was another faction that had a very good secondary too. Herd the Prey. Literally the same thing as Necrons, whatever that one is called. But it's the same thing, and they just do it better. It was just a reprint of the same secondary, but just given to an army that could actually perform it. Yeah.
AK, get close to me so I can murder you.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So Drukari got that good, sweet win. And then we've got the next army here that also posed a very big problem. We got the Adeptus Mechanicus. John P., you want to talk about Admech?
Yeah. So previously, 8th edition Admech, you saw a lot of like Dakabots, you saw a lot of Belisarius Call. Cataphront spam was everywhere. People were running like upwards of 15, 20, 30 Cataphrons in the list. 9th edition kind of changed all that. Everything put a big focus on Skitarii. They upped the count of that you could bring in a Skitarii unit for Rangers and Vanguards up to 20. You saw a lot of big blobs of 20. They released a new character, Skitarii Marshal, which if you gave it a relic could be a captain and a lieutenant all in one for a cheap 45 points.
It's one of the most cheapest units that are so good. It's so good.
Yeah. In addition to that, they introduced Holy Orders, which you could put on a Tech Priest Manipulus, have it point on unit, and have it ignore AP1, AP2. Put that on a brick of 20 Skitarii and watch them go to work.
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, the big boogeyman at the beginning was dealing with Lucius, which was the sturdy like move and shoot Forge World. With Lucius, you could have that ignore AP1, AP2 on a 20-man brick.
Yeah.
Also with transhuman, can just kill anything in their way and just stay there forever.
Yeah. I think that you're also forgetting about the chickens.
Yes. The last chickens were a big deal. They got hit pretty hard with the Nerf bat along the way, but they were very prominent. On top of that, the flyers, you saw a lot of flyer spam, upwards of 5 flyers in a lot of lists. At GW events, a lot of flyers. 3 Stratoraptors putting out like 6 las cannon shots with Fusilovs. Not only do they do all the shooting, they provide utility, like having your movement, turning off auras, taking up space on the map so you can't actually get out of your deployment zone. Probably the worst part.
Yeah.
How many Admech did we see at top 8 during SoCal? Wasn't it like 2 or 3? And they all had 3 planes. We only had like 1 freebooters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in the UK, there was like this huge arms race going on between like Orc planes, Admech planes, and Iron Hands, and it was just Admech planes just hands down smashed everybody. It was so disgusting.
Yeah, and I think that this was one of the first times that we saw a unit get a nerf bat where they actually lost core, right? With the Octarius.
Yeah.
That was the first time we ever saw it. Has it happened ever since then, or was that the only time?
I think that's the only time I can remember.
The only time I've seen it. Yeah. It definitely. It was interesting because that's not what I thought they would do to like balance it. I definitely thought that they would just do like the regular points increases and things which they normally did, but they went ahead and were like, okay, we're just taking a whole like interactivity mechanic from your unit away that severely reduces how they interact with rules within your book, but it also laid the precedent for them to add it to things like we then saw with Necrons, being like, hey, you know what, we can give it to somebody and take it away, and if they're going to be using like keywords even as like a mechanic that they can add and take away, it's cool. However, I've never been more terrified than that role to go first in my life, but I do feel when Admech comes into the picture, but I also feel like this was around the time, and with Drukari as well, but this really, I feel, led a spearhead in the development of like heavier terrain standards for events.
Oh yeah, because they came out at the same time.
Drukari and Admech, they came out at the same time. They had such an impact on the meta that all of a sudden you needed to have places that you could hide in. And with this came the advent of player plays terrain, where now you give the terrain as sort of like a tool to a player to make sure that you can kind of set up a little bunker or castle so you don't get just completely table on the first turn if your opponent goes first, and it allows the game to be more protracted than just, I play Admech or Drukari, I go first, I blow you off the table. And I feel it has led to some changes in the competitive scene and how we expect the density on the tables, to influence the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And also the TOs get to wipe their hands clean and say, you know what? We gave you the terrain. It's your fault. Not
your
ours.
Responsibility. You didn't place it good. That's on you.
I find it very interesting because before that, people were just running. I think that GW even placed out a terrain map of what your terrain should look like or something like that. Before that, even though 9th edition came out with so many new rules for your terrain, obscuring, dense cover, all this cool stuff, all these cool keywords they could put onto your terrain features. No one was really using it as much. And it wasn't until these books came out that people were like, okay, maybe we should figure something out here and try to actually use this to our advantage, because it was ridiculous. Drukari moved fast, Admech moved fast. These weren't D3 plus 3 damage where you had to be within like half range. They could shoot at you from what was the range of a last chicken, like 36 inches or something?
48.
Like
48 inches.
Yeah.
48 inches. They moved 10 inches. They could auto advance 6.
Advance or advance 6 and shoot at full profile with the Doctriners or a bunch of other things. Yeah.
AK, they could murder you wherever you were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the only stuff that we had to at the time in order to counteract that were things like Death Guard, Dark Angels, stuff like that. And this is really where the term for like codex creep really started to become more prevalent, and people saying this is codex creep. There's a lot of stuff that is happening here that we just cannot deal with. And pretty interesting. John P., how about you tell us what their win rates were, or their top 4 placements?
Yeah, so top 4, they have placed 41 times as of October. And that number will probably stay put. They're not as performing as well in tournaments recently. They'll probably be around 50 by end of the year.
Yeah.
Do you guys think there's such a thing as faction resilience as a concept? Because Admech is just fine. It's a hyperbolic perception that they've declined. They're probably around about to where they always were meant to be, and yet they've been dropped like it's hot wholesale by so many players. Do you think
Yeah.
there's a lack of resilience in that player base, or do you think it's just people just like, oh, onto greener pastures?
I think it is lack of resilience from those players. Not that like, whatever army you want to play, go ahead and play it. I think that it's just that when it comes to these big armies that had like this huge amount of win rate, when they see that something isn't working out and then they just jump ship without really paying attention to what else that army can do, that becomes kind of a problem. But I do see that like some of the reasons as to why AdMech is suffering, they can't really trade well in a trading meta. It's really hard for them to like hold or gain control of like objectives with things like infiltrators if they don't get like a good roll off or stuff like that. So I can see that, but I agree that it could come down to resilience. Yeah.
I call it weak.
Yeah.
Weakness. like their flesh.
Yeah.
The flesh that they will not. Yeah.
I think with AdMech too, it's also a pretty high ceiling of an army. Like you hear all the things they can do. They can
Oh my goodness.
advance and charge. They can auto wound on 5s. They can deal a bunch of mortals. They can do all this nonsense. But you can't do all that unless you meet a specific condition. So definitely a lot of finesse required and a lot of like
Dude.
knowledge
Yeah,
of the army in order to do everything right.
Now that you don't have enough stuff to just be like push win, and you have to actually think about it.
Put
You're
crayons
probably
up your
right.
nose. Winning.
You're probably right. It takes a lot more mental arithmetic to get the most out of it, and that's probably worn people down.
Yeah.
I played AdMech so many times this year at tournaments, and like every single time, I could not remember anything that they did. Like, because every single time they would just start spouting off like stuff, and I'm just like, okay, praise be the Messiah. Like, sure, whatever.
I was like calling games, and I would just and playing as AdMech as well, and they could have just made up anything. Like, I have this lamp.
Yeah.
This lamp right here. See this lamp? Plus 9 to hit. And I would just be like, sure, brother. Go for it.
Yeah, to be fair to Make, I'm pretty sure that those players also didn't know what they were saying. They were just like spouting out stuff anyways. I think that AdMech also showed us the amount of rules bloat that a lot of people started talking about, right? Because AdMech, you had to have you have your doctrinas that you have to take into account. You have your imperatives that you have to take into account. You have 3 different books that you have to run. Just like so much rules inside of this army that could also be leading to like just burnout on trying to run them because there's just so much. Speaking about just saying gibberish and making sure that and thinking that people are just going to believe you. Let's talk about the Adeptus Sororitas or the Sisters of Battle. How about who wants to talk about that? Who wants to talk about Sisters?
I'll jump in. I'll jump in real quick because the Sisters of Battle codex had gone, like the previous release had gone through an entire rework. They'd redone everything in plastics. They kind of did fan service and like took their time and built a whole new like Sisters of Battle line, and they put out this new book. And that book was dummying people. Like it was a strong codex. And then they released this codex, so this like new release, bringing it into 9th edition. And I felt like a lot of the diehard Sisters of Battle players really felt like it didn't really add or take much away, but it was not at the level that they would have hoped or expected it to be, based on the fact that Drukari and Adeptus were murdering everything left, right, and center, and they got a very reasonable codex.
Yeah,
which
it was a very fair book, but it came off the back of 2 of the most broke books in recent memory.
Correct. And that sort of that left a bit of a sour taste in a lot of players' mouths. But now, like, we're starting to see, like, that book has some cool tricks in it. You've got more of a Volt, you got Celestine, you've got the Bodyguard rule, you got Sacrosanct, which you couldn't buy anywhere because it was sold out, right? And now that people are starting to get, or avid Sisters of Battle players are seeing the combos that you can pull out of it, and how to win missions and how to play the game within that book. Like, it's a book that has depth. You've got the ability to hit people hard in combat. You've got the ability to score points when it comes to the missions, and you have the ability to shoot and to do little deployment tricks and to get back into reserve if you need, like, to just do things that allow you to play the missions well and win games. It's just not a push crayons up your nose like Drukari game, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that I feel like that and we say this all the time when we're talking to Bricky, who like plays Sisters like all the time. Their 8th edition book was like the precursor to 9th edition, almost, is what it felt like. Like it felt like it was made for 9th edition. And so when it came to 9th edition, Sisters were still doing fine, even up until their 9th edition codex came out. And then it felt kind of like just a lateral move to put them in line with the rules for 9th edition more than anything. It wasn't like a nerf, it wasn't a buff, it was just lateral.
I would say slight nerf, because they could no longer just crap miracle dice out of thin air, because that was the one thing with the 8th edition book. Like, they would just poop out miracle dice no matter what they did.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
They also lost that one stratagem where like they could increase the range of their melta to 36 inches.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
man,
totally forgot about
that's
that.
fun.
Yeah, but then they got the new strat where they could just drop down. I think it's like Zephyrim. It doesn't matter what they're called. I don't know what they're called, but like they just drop down, deal like 6 mortal wounds of flamers or something like that. Like,
oh yeah.
Every time that somebody says something about Sisters and like a stratagem that they have or like an ability, it goes in one ear and it just goes right out the other. It just never sticks inside of my head. It's impossible.
I will say that, Sisters of Battle in general just show you how powerful it is to have a mechanic in the game that doesn't require dice rolls. Like, it does, but it doesn't. Like, Miracle Dice are one of the most powerful rule mechanics in the game. Yep. Being like, I need a 10-inch charge. Oh, look. Oh, miracles happen. A 10-inch charge, right? Like, I just happen to have these dice. We play a game where chance comes into play, where you go, I'm going to shoot 10 last cannons at that one wounded rhino, and there's a chance that you won't do nothing to that rhino.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you guys pay much attention to Age of Sigmar? I mean, I don't play it, but I try and keep my finger on it. And the exact same mechanic called Fate Dice for the Disciples of Zinch, for the Zinch only faction, and they broke the game. They just straight up broke the game. They were so OP. And when the next Sisters book, when the next Sisters book was coming out, I'm like, if they just get if they have Miracle Dice and they're as good as Drukari or Admech, they're gonna be better than Drukari or Admech, because they're gonna be the same thing but with no variance. And so I'm actually quite grateful, because that mechanic is always a risk. It's so super spicy, super enjoyable, super thematic as well. So definitely nothing against it.
Yeah. Who would have thought that taking RNG out of an RNG game could pose problems?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Who would have thought about that? That's crazy. Okay, so John P., how about you tell us how the Sisters have been doing?
Yeah, so Sisters of Battle have placed top 4 22 times, according to 40kstats.com, as of October.
That's actually really good.
Bad.
Yeah.
They only came out in June, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Considering that Dark Angels are at 23, that's only one less than Dark Angels, and only stopping at October. That's pretty good. Yeah. Okay, cool. So after that, we had Warzone Charadon Act 2 that came out. What was in that? Does anyone know what was in that?
I bought the book. I don't hold on.
Was that the Book of Rust?
That was Act 1 was the Book of Rust. Act 2 was the other one.
Fire.
Book of Fire. Warzone Charadon, the Book of Fire.
Okay.
That one,
here.
actually, that one introduced the rules for the Skitari veteran cohort.
Okay.
Oh,
so
that's
here's an
the one.
idea.
Okay.
So here's an idea. Let's make a really powerful codex and give more rules to it.
Yeah. That was the 3-book thing. But it did come with Be'lakor, and that was huge for Chaos Demons. That is nasty. That guy, I love Be'lakor. And it's probably like the best model in all of 40k. Like, if you had to rank it as what type of model, that's like a C tier Age of Sigmar model right there. Like, it's so good.
C tier Age of Sigmar.
So we have the Skitari veteran cohort.
Yeah.
We have a codex supplement, Order of Our Martyred Lady for Sisters.
Oh, I didn't even know that they had that in there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite supplements, by the way.
Go ahead, Skar.
No, it's okay. I was just coattailing off of what you said there.
Oh yeah, and then Chaos Space Marines Appendix. Champions
Oh
of
yeah.
Ruin.
Oh yeah.
Yay.
It's opportunity for extra wounds right there.
Reprint, baby, reprint.
Yeah.
No. They have Dark Angels already. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Everyone was
True.
so disappointed by that bit.
Yeah.
So disappointed.
Is that it?
So disappointing when you
Renegade
remember
chapters. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Is it weird that I don't think like the veteran cohort made as big as a splash as it did? I feel like only Richard Siegler won a huge event with the veteran cohort. Apart from that, a lot of people stayed away from it. A lot of people kept with what brought them to the dance and went for the flyers, the chicken, the big blocks of 20 Vanguard and
Which you could still do. I think it was more because you wanted to mix Lucius and Mars together, which I feel then turned it into I don't want to just run one or the other. And the reason Siegler did okay with it is because he took all the Metallica stuff, which was in the first book of Rust with the Cult of Strife stuff. And that gave you access to like auto, like advance and charge, and like all this other like utilitarian stuff that then, the auto 6-inch advance and things, which then you mixed in with the book, like the second book, which then just cranked it up a notch, and then combined it with Games Workshop terrain, which was very infantry friendly, right?
Well, yeah, he identified that very quickly how infantry friendly it was, and a huge deal.
Admech did not deserve to get hit as hard they did, but we'll get to that essentially.
I think they're fine. Everyone's
they're good.
overreacting.
They're just like I just feel like it's a very when Drukari didn't get just sidestepped and dodged the bullet.
That's
it's very poignant. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's in your face.
No, see, that's the problem. If Admech and Drukari got hit fairly well, sorry, if Drukari got hit to the same extent Admech got hit, this world we live in, this meta we live in, would be a beautiful place. Maybe Grey Knights would be a bit too over the top at that point.
Yeah.
But so I watched a game today. Like I watched and produced a game today on another channel where somebody played Admech, and I was just like, they are off their guts, phenomenal still.
They're definitely still good with a good general. It just takes someone that really knows the army, especially.
Yeah,
so
that knows all three of the books. That knows all the three of the books really well.
Yeah, first things first, I have to buy all 3 books, which is like $200.
Yeah. All right. So the next one, right after that, right after the Warzone Charodon, we do have Orks that kind of came out, quote unquote, because they had the book, and then there was like a shipping debacle, and so we're gonna go talk about that a little bit later because it didn't really come out until later on. Because we have the Grey Knights coming in right after that. Anyone want to take Grey Knights?
Codex.
I'll take Grey Knights. That's okay.
Okay.
So, Grey Knights came out. They're pretty good. They're still really good. They have like one of the best secondaries in the entire game. Purifying Ritual, just so strong. Cancels out a bore, all that stuff. Kind of a huge change from what they had before. They no longer had Astral Aim where it ignored terrain, which was pretty nice. That's a good change, especially now with all the terrain that came up. But yeah, when they first came out, not a big splash. Now, a lot more of a splash. A lot of people are taking it now. Lots of Nemesis Dread Knight spam, lots of Interceptor spams. Pretty good codex, but the data sheets are really limited. There's like only 4 viable data sheets inside of the entire codex. It's not very well written.
So it's interesting that it came out with T-Suns. So them and T-Suns essentially 2 sides of the same coin. They both have very small model ranges, like extremely small model ranges. And therefore, how interesting can your book really be when you only have so many unit options? I challenge what you said a little bit. I think every unit that has power armor in that book is usable, but it's just some are better than others, right? Like Dread Knights and Interceptors are just the 2 best things in the book. And then as long as you can just take those as your whole army, there's no even need to look at the rest of them. I think Purgation squads are fine. I think Purifiers are fine. I think Strike squads. Troops choice to troops choice, Strike squads are one of the best troops in the game. They're so phenomenally really good. But you're just like, why would I take that one when I could take the same guy with a jump pack? You're like, and that's exactly the thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, I love Purifiers. Purifiers are great. Drop just 3 flat mortal wounds. That's your Doom Bolt right there. Such a such good units. You can give them -1 damage. The only problem with the entire book is literally just that things are just kind of expensive. Paladins, for example, so expensive to the point where it's ridiculous. You would never want to take them. Same thing with Terminators.
They kind of did the Termies dirty. I think they may have been, like, if I think about why that could be, maybe they were afraid of making more Dark Angels and Death Guard Terminators and making another bus stop list. Because you think if they could have, like, 20 regular Termies, 10 Paladins, and Purifying Ritual, would you leave your deployment zone and then just, like, just chuck Dread Knights behind it? Like, I wouldn't leave my deployment zone, son. Like, come get me. Like, this is a horrible prospect.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Like, and the whole thing's got Tide of Shadows as well. Fun.
The changes to the Tides, because Tides came in during a Psychic Awakening, if I remember correctly. And
they did at the end of 8th edition, towards the end of 8th edition, just before COVID really hit. 2019, they kind of released, and I remember running a GT, and like Grey Knights had really gotten a fantastic supplement with some really cool rules that was going to really make the faction relevant in that edition when at the time, and you never really got to see it come to fruition. So it was a shame that you never really got to see it. This was like a refining of those rules, but then I feel it really became like Codex, Dread Knight, and Power Armor, Jumpy Space Marines. You know what I mean? In that sense.
Yeah,
Well,
because
let's have a moment of silence and pour one out for the Psychic Awakening books.
Man, so that's I've been mulling over in my head the design choice of those Psychic Awakening books for quite some time, because they were what G-Dub tried to do instead of giving us all indexes. I think that's what it feels like. Instead of, like, indexed everything at the start of 8th edition, they're like, let's see if we can not do that this time. And so they gave everybody what they thought was an equivalent to their power patch fix. And all it did was, like, bloat the crap out of some, undergive to some others, and, like, it's obvious that they didn't quite have their finger on the pulse of what was good. Because I looked at what Orks got, I'm like, that would have made sense before Orks got nerfed twice. Like, when their looters were really good, when they got some of at the peak of their 8th edition power, that was the stuff they got would have been, yeah, cool, here's some extra fun. But then, you know, Space Marines got all the super chaplains and apothecaries and all that stuff. Custodes got, like, a whole nother codex essentially. So it was just a weird thing that they did. But that's 2 years ago stuff. What am I talking about? Sorry.
Listen, all I'm saying is just that Blood of Ball Psychic Awakening was one of the better Psychic Awakenings that came out. It had such good updates for Tyranids. It was so good.
Dude, for the greater good. Come on, man. The prototype weapons.
Yeah, it's pretty good too. Okay.
I liked it.
Moving on. Jumpy, how about you tell us how Grey Knights have been performing?
I derailed the conversation. Sorry.
So according to 40kstats.com, Grey Knights have only placed top 4 as of October. Have only placed top 4 8 times as of October, which I'm sure is going to go way up by end of the year.
That's like still 1 a week since when they came out to the end of October, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty dang good. Right after Grey Knights, we've got the Thousand Suns that came out. Thousand Suns came out, made a huge splash because everybody was going crazy about all the Cabal stuff that they could do, all the shenanigans that they can do with their new psychic powers, everything like that. Now, how much mortal wounds they can dump out in a single psychic phase is pretty nuts. You could do like 20 mortal wounds in one psychic phase. That's pretty disgusting. But they just haven't really been performing as well as people kind of thought that they were going to perform when their book was released. Does anybody want to talk about Thousand Suns? Raise your hand. All right, Skari. Thank you.
Better than me jumping in. Yeah. No, I raised my hand for anybody who's listening on the radio. Thousand Suns are one of those armies that has a sort of like complexity to activations that requires quite a bit of brain power, and I feel like it is, even though it's a very powerful book and has the ability to win lots of games. Like, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen people take Thousand Suns and wreck people with it, mainly with like Terminators and good use of Cabal points and whatnot. but it is a very technical style gameplay list, and over 5 or 6 or 7 rounds at a tournament, when you have so many little pieces that move in a list, odds are at some point it will that whole system will break down like a house of cards. And because you're using dice, you're having to take psychic tests. You have to, and at some point, the wheels can fall off the bus, which do make it a little unreliable. When you're so reliant on things like psychic powers, in a long event that requires you to be very consistent every single game for 9 rounds to win like a big major.
Yeah,
it's really a book that just is built around failure points. And you have to go through so many failure points every single turn in order to get the max efficiency out of your book. And so therefore, what's end up coming from it, as I don't know if you guys have been tracking the T-Sun stuff, they're just stuff that just doesn't rely, just playing like a good Space Marines list. And then
because you're running Contemptors. And
then the Psychic is just a cherry on top. And so it's weird, it doesn't feel that T-Sunsy.
Yeah.
Well, except it's got lots of rubrics and Scarabacol, which feel very T-Thuns, but it doesn't feel like the psychic powerhouse. Like it feels like just like a Space Marines list with two librarians in it.
And Magnus Magnus get like a lateral move?
He didn't get a lateral move. He got like a nerf. Like he went down.
He got took out behind the shed.
They shot him in the head. It was bad.
Magnus is sadly not good. One of the coolest models he did everything wrong in this codex.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thousand Suns, like you guys were saying, it's a very complicated book. If we're talking about like the two sides of the coin, right? Grey Knight's book, a lot more straightforward. K-Sun's book or Thousand Suns book, a lot more complicated. You have to juggle your ball points. You have to juggle all your psychic powers. You have to do them in certain sequences or else it doesn't work correctly. And so people have just kind of like said, screw all that. Here's 3 Chaos Contemptor Dread Knights, or Chaos Contemptor Dreadnoughts, and some Termies. That's pretty much it. I do like the changes that they did for their Chaos Spawn, like the strat where they can have their Chaos Spawn just hit a ridiculous amount of times. I love that. Pretty sad that Zangors aren't as, one of their only units that are specific to them, just didn't get any love at all. Just kind of sucks. But yeah. That's Thousand Suns. Also, not very good secondaries.
Well, they do have that 1 second. Yeah, Wrath of Magnus kind of affected what people still played Space Marines. Took out the utility librarian out of their list, essentially. Otherwise, they give them 315.
They've got one good one in Mutate Landscape.
Yeah,
and that's okay. So it's a good third pick.
Yeah,
and it's pretty much what's like Spread the Sickness. I guess it's Spread the Sickness for Death Guard equivalent. Yeah. Except you don't have to take mortal wounds. For some reason, the spreading of sickness hurts Nurgle. I thought they liked it. I thought that was the whole reason they existed. They're like,
they need one of them.
That's what. Well, I mean, that's also what makes the Poxwalkers good too. You do spread the sickness with the Poxwalkers, and then you use your feel no pain. Hopefully, nobody dies. If they do die, you just spend the CP to raise them from the dead.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem is that like Thousand Suns, they have Mutate Landscape, which is okay, but they don't have something that can go tit for tat against Aboard the Witch, right? And that's a pretty big problem. Whereas Grey Knights can actually do Psychic Ritual and go point for Aboard the Witch. Thousand Suns don't have that type of utility.
In addition,
however, I want to counterpoint you there, because I feel like Thousand Suns can actually get away with it because they can build like large blocks of Terminators that are really, really good, and you can bring back to life. And it's hard to get as many Abhor the Witch points than against Grey Knights, who have like a million small 5-man squads. Yeah, and they kind of need that to get their secondaries. So I feel this.
That's something that T-Suns have been forced to do, right? They've been forced into just taking larger squads in order to stop bleeding points in Abhor the Witch here, there, and everywhere, which they're able to do pretty well because they are above average durability. Definitely, they've got an invuln save. They've got a +1 to save when you're only damage 1, which is a lot. With so much damage, like damage -1 in the meta, you're forced into 2 damage bands. You're forced to either go mass damage 1 or as much damage 3 or better as I can. And so the damage 1 bracket getting extra save is actually a really nice place to be.
Yeah, and they're fearless.
And the fearless is nice too. Yeah,
and
so it makes the 10 mans a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Jumpy. How are they performing?
All right. Not performing so well. Only 4 top 4s.
Yeah. It's a very complicated codex. A lot of people have to learn the different sequences for it. All right, so moving on from there, we got a couple more to talk about. We have the Warzone Octarius books. I think that we could talk about the first one the most because I think that that's the most relevant as of right now because that's the one that had the Leviathan Tyranid changes that were absolutely huge for Tyranids and actually brought them from being a middle tier army all the way up to a contender. I think John Lennon just won what's it called? New Orleans Open with Tyranids souping with GSE. Yeah. It
was a nice change.
I like it. I really like that. I love the Leviathan stuff inside of Octarius. I think it's really good. Being able to take units and give them OPSEC, like giving things like Sky Slasher Swarms or Gargoyles and just slinging them up the board, giving them OPSEC, stealing and sniping away objectives, stuff like Tesla or double exploding 6s for Devil Gaunts, or for Gene Stealers. You finally have Chapter Master rerolls. It's a bunch of really good updates and buffs to Tyranids that helps tie them over to their next codex, and I love it. And it still feels kind of fluffy. I like it. It's good. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's so weird how there's the perception that it's overpowered right now, and that's because they're functioning off this baseline of 8th edition metrics. Like people are always like, oh, a sky is falling, Hive Guard, and they're like, but since there's a clock on it, there's a clock on Hive Guard being good because there's only so long before they lose that double shoot, and as soon as they do, like, are they actually good? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the biggest problem that they had that got fixed from the book was like just D3 damage. Being able to re-roll that's huge for them.
Well, legit, if in the next book, because a lot of the D3s are becoming flat 2s. If the Hive Guard go to flat 2, they're actually terrible because the -1 damage just means they're they're nothing.
Yeah, they're bad at that point. Yeah. Good stuff for the Warzone Octarius book. I don't think that we need to talk about it.
Did we talk about Orks?
Do you guys need to? We're about to. We're about to right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're mixing it all together.
What else was in that book? Anyways.
What, the Octarius book?
Yeah, besides the Dids. Wasn't there something else?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think there's some Imp stuff, but it was like really
that's
basic.
Like the one. That's one
Cadian.
of the 2 books I haven't bought.
Yeah, it was
The
like not a lot
stuff.
of cool stuff.
There was the Cadian supplement. It's really surprising how you can give similar rules to Cadia and similar rules to Leviathan, and one of those things matters and the other one doesn't. I mean, sorry, Guard we didn't get no Chapter Master or nothing like that, but we got exploding 6s, the ability to give rerolls. We got the ability to give OBSEC and the ability to redeploy.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff here. And then we have the White Dwarf for the Army of Renown for Tyranids coming out soon. So
this weekend, I think.
It's time. It's time for them to stop eating dirt and actually just start eating people. It's great.
Well, it's funny because jumping back like an edition. Tyranids and a bunch of Gene Stealers were scary. Like they were part of the meta. Like they were an army that you had to respect. Double moving Gene Stealers that got in your face and just like tied up everything and double fought and overran and it's nice to see them back at that sort of like Apex Predator style where hey if we get the jump on you we have the damage and the versatility and we're reliable enough to kill things in your army, so you have to watch out for us again. And that it's nice to see that because Tyranids are like the classic bad guy. They just go in and just kill everything, and that's just a classic bad game.
And they do secondaries so well. They are so good at scoring
for now.
Yeah, until the new R&D and
I
Engage
think that
comes out.
They will be great at teleport homers with their double moving like Termagant units.
They're
stuff
still
like
gonna get.
You think they're still gonna
have double moves? That's cute.
No, I meant like right now until potentially.
Yeah, listen,
okay.
Adam, the Tyranids
You're
Codex isn't
way
coming out
ahead
for
of
like
us.
another 2 years, okay? We got some
That's
time.
fair.
We're good.
That's
We're
fair.
good.
That's
We're
fair.
good.
That's fair.
All right, John
I'm
P.
talking now at this moment.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. They've got more double moves than anybody else right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John P. How about you tell us how well they've been doing? Wait, John P. Oh, he's dead.
He's
Oh,
frozen.
he
He's
froze
frozen.
up.
He froze.
F's
Oh,
in chat.
F in chat.
Oh, no.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, here it
no.
goes. So Tyranids since October or till October have had zero top fours.
Woo!
I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying that.
It is.
Had-
No, they've gotten top 4 finishes.
I-
Yeah.
Oh, his internet went out.
At least one.
Yeah.
At least
The
one top
weather got
finish.
him.
I'm pretty sure he's had 2, and
Oh,
they've both
there he
been
is.
John.
He's
They've
back.
both been John.
Hello.
I've returned. The rainstorms, I guess, took out my internet for a little bit, but yeah, I'm back.
Yeah. Hey,
Nice.
how many wins do Tyranids have in top 4 during this year?
0. Oh wait,
That's right.
just kidding. With 1,
Ah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 since January.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Screw you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Even
Yeah, that's-
before all their good stuff. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
before
Oh
the good
yeah,
stuff,
because they
yeah.
had the demo run. They had the demo run.
They did have the
yeah.
Dima run.
They had
All
about
right.
a month.
Yeah, but it's coming back. It's fine. It's fine. All right, let's talk about the next big boogeyman here. Let's talk about the Orks. The Orks. This is one of the later codexes, and then after this we have Black Templars. But we can run through this one real quick. Let's talk about the Orks and how they did on their book release. Who wants to take that one? How about Adam? Adam, you want to take Orks?
Okay, so when Orcs came out, everybody hated them. The Orc players were like, well, sorry. A lot of the diehards were like, oh, well, batten down the hatches. We got another 3 years of mediocrity. And then people realized, oh, sweet, merciful Jesus. Freebooters is nuts. And here's the thing. So the reason people were up in arms about it and people were a bit wonky about it is because they operated really differently to other codexes. The structure of it was obviously in a realm of its own. They functioned like a Drukari book. It wanted you to take multiple detachments, but gave you no incentives for doing so. Apart from the fact that a lot of jank, a lot of the best bits and pieces were locked to different clan cultures, and there wasn't good enough stratagems to want you to stick together in a single battalion. And so what people ended up doing was taking, multiple bits and pieces here, there, and everywhere. And that's really what the lists are now. Like Mark Perry just came second in New Orleans with a triple patrol detachment, like 3 patrols. That sounds like Drukari, except he gets no CP back. It did really well. But what ended up coalescing out of that immediately, within the first couple of weeks, was this list of essentially the Speed Freaks box set that G-Dub put out. 2 of those and as many flyers as you could own. It most likely was 2 Dakajaz, 2 freebooters. And that became the most obnoxious thing to exist in the meta for the 2 months in which it was viable. It would table anybody on any terrain in 1 turn if it went first, or cripple them to such a state they could no longer contest the field. It was toxic.
Yeah.
I remember when we were at SoCal, I heard a lot of people just walk by my table and be like, yeah, I'm done. I got table turn 2. I heard that like a dozen times. I was like, what the heck what are they losing to? I don't want to face that. It was Orcs. It was freebooters.
Yeah. And I think that this was also the spawn of like, we had sensationalism with Drukari and Admech, and then when Orcs came out, it like just skyrocketed after the results from SoCal, where what's his name beat Sean Naden, and it was like
In like
broadcasted
20
to
minutes?
everybody in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was such bad PR for 40k because so many people were up in arms and just saying this game is broken. Alpha Strike is ridiculous. There's nothing saving this game anymore. There's codex creep and all that stuff. Much sensationalism after that.
So, and props to the gentleman. I think his name was Logan. I called that game.
Yeah, Logan.
And it was a hard one to call. Good for him. Beat one of the best players of all time in like 1 turn. Broke him. Props to you, my man. No one can take that away from you. But the headline, like read after that, is local RTT. Local, I guess, tough guy 40k. Not saying anything about his attitude, but local tough beats possibly the GOAT in 1 turn. That's kind of the headline. And but what happened? The issue there was it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It really opened up the floodgates because GW had not balanced a damn thing apart, taking core away from Ballistari and stopping Dark Technomancers for 6 or 7 months. We had 6 or 7 months of toxicity, and then we just got a third player added to that paradigm of 3 unbeatable factions, and then so everybody else was just like huge sigh. Is this the game is just going to die? We have like GW has like a month to fix this, otherwise nobody wants to play anymore.
Yeah, and then they came out with the balance slate or the balance.
They did
the data, whatever it's called, the balance sheet, right? That thing was huge. It was such a good representation from GW to be like, we know that there are problems. Here's a fix for everything, even though they buffed Drukari still by, raising.
I don't understand why. Like what?
They did some nerfs to AdMech. They buffed up Imperial Knights, and then, with the White Dwarf for Tyranids, they're just like, here, hold my beer. But, there's just so much good stuff that came out of that data slate. Love it. So good. So good. John P., you have anything that you want to add on to that about Orks?
Yeah, I mean, like Adam said, straw that broke the camel's back. The planes thing was already a big problem with AdMech. Second Army being able to spam and take advantage of that, just reinforce that. The planes thing is definitely a good healthy change.
Yeah, I feel like that the buggy hit was a little bit rough. It's a little bit heavy-handed, but kind of knee-jerky at that point.
Yeah.
I just don't think there was a good solution at the time, and it needed something. But so there have been whispers in back rooms from people that I trust that say that these balance changes are not permanent, and that at some point, if they find a better fix or if they find that it's no longer needed, it may be lifted.
That's good.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Cool.
I could see that.
Because it wasn't an incremental shift. It wasn't like, we'll put them up a little bit of points, and now we'll put them up some more points and hit them a little bit on the rules. They just went sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Which kind of needed to be.
Yeah. Here's your game health. Bam.
Yeah.
All right, John P., how about you tell us how many finishes they got in the top 4?
Yeah. So since August, they have finished top 4 13 times.
Wow. In 1 month.
Between August and October.
Yeah,
So,
that is insane. Wow.
So
Pretty
that's like three a week.
And that's till October. So that was in the period of time, like before they kind of like unlocked the freebooter stuff. Like it took a couple of events before people started going, oh, I can just take these planes and just destroy everyone.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's because it wasn't until SoCal where I had a lot of coverage, right? Before
true.
then, it was
There
it
was
like
the London GT, which had a very similar thing happen, but I think that was AdMech, wasn't it?
AdMech won that one. Yeah,
it was AdMech.
Yeah.
So it was funny because that was like a very similar situation where the game lasted 15 minutes, right? And
So it was missing the last piece. There was a lot of the same builds where it was all the rocket trucks and the scrap jets, and it had the Dakar jets, but it wasn't until the WAS bombs were widely adopted that the last piece of that list fell into place, and it became truly like unbeatable turn 1. Like it became absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
The WAS bomb gives other flyers, right? The 5-up invuln on top of
it gives
all the
the whole
nonsense it
army.
does.
The whole army of 5+ invuln, and it gave them the anti-tank they needed to contend with other flyers.
Yeah, the teleporter booster blaster or whatever it's called, right?
So many last cannon shots. That's great.
Yeah,
Talk about
exactly.
V3 plus 3 damage.
Yeah.
On an orc plane that already hits on 4s.
For some reason.
Are
For some reason. If it hit on 5s, it'd be fine. But no, it hits on 4s and then goes to 3s because it's freebooters. And then you're just like, well, cool.
I knew it was a problem.
Congratulations, that's the best Space Marine flyer in the game.
I saw
Ramshackle, by the way, just to top it off.
Yeah.
Just to top it off.
-1 damage. Were we talking about the -1 damage? I saw that list table. One of our lists that we were testing for Team Canada, like the 3 WAS bomb blasters and Dak jets in 20 minutes. This was before any of the events happened. I was like, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this in my life. We're just sitting there on TTS, watching this unfold, being like, how is this physically possible?
This felt that list felt very similar to the Iron Hands triple repulsor list to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you had the
yeah.
the triple repulsor, and then you had the couple of talons. What are they called? The little planes.
The sky,
and
yeah.
then, the sky talons, and then you had all the little bits and pieces around, like maybe a couple of whirlwinds and stuff. It felt it felt very similar because it's just like how many units you got. Chances are I've got as many guns as you have units, and it's just ugly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
I remember that. That was not fun.
All right, to wrap this all up, we have the last codex that has come out this year, just because Custodes and Genestealer cults were pushed into next year, and that's the Black Templars. And I have no idea how this has affected the game at all with Black Templars. I know that they got some Crusaders. I know they got some cool new stuff, and an unkillable like captain or something, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about Black Templars.
And houses bones.
They really haven't shaken the meta up. They've just become the kind of default best, like they're not. I even struggle to say that the default best Marines.
They're Space Marines, okay? They're a version of Space Marines. Like every other Space Marine you see, it's just a Space Marine. It just makes things more efficient, like having a 5-up invul mini transhuman and a chaplain that's very hard to kill, which was already the case. They just kind of crank it up a notch. But if like Iron Hands are having a resurgence, if you want to talk about like Space Marines having a resurgence, and Black Templars are just they're there. They're good. They're fun. But they're just Space Marines.
Yeah. Demeki, you're like holding your hands up. What do you want to say?
Yeah, because they had the best meme of 2021, the little dude that was like cleaning the blade.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Hellbreak servitor cleaner.
So I will say I do think Black Templars are still coalescing. When that book came out, I trashed it. I dunked on that book because it's one of my favorite factions. And I was just like, they gave us like 20 pages, but took away the only two things that made us good. That being the Devout Push and the Advance and Charge. And like, cool, Heilbrecht is now actually ridiculous for the points and whatever. We got all this special spicy sauce, but I'm like, we don't have anything that actually makes us good at 9th edition now, or lets us go toe to toe with the best armies. But I think I was wrong. I think there is a very good build there, but it's not conventional to what we'd expect. So there's this big difference between an aggressive army and an army that applies pressure. Now, Black Templars have the amazing ability to get to the midfield almost like en masse in strength or quicker than just about anybody else because of the rerollable charge or the D3 +3 charge from Grimaldus, and that's rerollable as well. Plus they have the ability to Devout Push. Plus they have the ability to, if you're against Psychers, to have an extra 3 inches onto your movement turn 1. So they will get and post up on the midboard objectives faster than just about any other armies because their whole army will just pick up and go there turn 1. And I think that can become a powerhouse in its own right, but only because the speed of Drukari is kind of gone. If everything moves back to like super MSU high efficiency stuff, this won't work. It only works because you can go meat for meat with the big tough stuff because you're Space Marines and you got that 5+ invuln, permatranshuman, feel no pains, and all that other crap. So there is a build there, but it's still forming and yet to become like an actual legitimate contender.
Yeah, and I think that it was just like a huge blow to Black Templars because it's like what you said. The first thing that popped out at you, right, is Devout Push and Emperor's Will like being gone and taken away. And that was like what made Black Templars really kind of just like tick and be its own thing. Devout Push was like so cool. You had so much cool mechanics that you could do with it. And it played so well in 9th edition. And then to have it like kind of stripped away, just kind of like blew people back a little bit. It was like kind of, why would you do that? I think that's what we're working with here when it comes to Black Templars.
I mean, I understand why they took it away. Like at every turn, GW has been taking away things that may cause feel bad moments for your opponent, and like I gotta tell you, Devout Push was like a wet dream for what you could, the amount of dumb crap you could get away with using it. You're just
I
like,
know, right?
I could do that.
It was
I could do that.
amazing.
I could do that.
That's what it
Oh my god!
was.
Oh my god! This is so good.
Impulsors,
Yeah,
impulsors, Blade Guard vets coming out.
yeah. It was nuts to conceptualize just what you.
Like
could
I
pull
still
off with
used it effectively to like go and contest objectives when you have no reason contesting an objective and things like that. But the whole army feel went from something that I think people need to also realize is Black Templars can do shooting really well and close combat really well. I think they're a very balanced army. They can do the dreadnought builds and have like very durable dreadnoughts without having to like rely on psychic support and things like that to get that reliability and like redemptive dreadnoughts and whatnot. But at the same time, having the ability to get some really durable close combat units like Blade Guard veterans that have access to some really cool janky stuff like ignore AP 1 and 2 and -1 damage on the sergeant and like stuff that just makes them stick around longer than your average Blade Guard veteran without having to resort to something tough like, Dark Angels, right? So that in and of itself helps, but then you have little rules like 5-up ignore, like feel no pain against mortal wounds, which is like a good thing to have in 9th edition. Anyway, all in all, they're not the best, but they've got some play, and it's nice to see armies out there that are using them effectively.
Yeah, and I think
like
it's nice
players that are using them effectively.
Yeah, and it's also nice that a codex comes out and it's not like completely broken on release, right? It's like a nice change of pace because this year was jam packed, as you guys can see from this episode. How much good stuff came out this year? Lots of really, really good armies, lots of really good codices, and all that good stuff. But that is it for today. We ran a little bit longer than we usually do, just because there was so much stuff that we had to talk about for all of 2021. But that is everything that has, or that's all the codices that came out during 2021. And yeah, so let us know what you guys think was like the highlight of the year, I guess, for 40k. In your opinion, which codices you guys enjoyed the most, and leave that in the comments of this video. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Skari, you want to plug yourself on where people can find you?
Well, it is plugged to be shocking, but you can find me on YouTube at Scodcast. Just check it out. Videos, battle reports, all that good stuff, and all the other social media links are right on there. So it's really easy.
Awesome. And Adam, you're up. Plug yourself.
Oh, you can find me on just about any old thing. Firstly, on the Thursday show coming out on Thursdays at 9 p.m. You can find me there. Over on FTN every week, recording with the lovely Paul Murphy, legend of the community, Red Pal, and Tanya Gates. And you can also find me on the Art of War and Art of War Down Under. You can see me on content here, there, and everywhere on the artofwar40k.com, in addition to their YouTube channel and my personal podcast, The Art of War Down Under. And we're coming out Tuesday mornings, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every week. We are predominantly a review podcast, but there are two parts of that one. You can find the second part, which is all your love list of questions and the deep dives over on Patreon, Art of War Down Under, or on 40k.com. Sorry, the Art of War 40k.com. Jeez, almost did it perfectly. Damn.
Awesome. John P., plug yourself. Where can people find you?
Oh yeah. I've never done one of these. You can find me on Dice Check YouTube channel. Dice Check everywhere. My social media is going to be Joe Nathan P. Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff.
Cool. And Demeki, plug yourself.
Yeah, so you can find me. I do have a YouTube. It's Demeki. There's not much on there, but maybe next year I'll work on it. I also have a Twitch. You can twitch.com/Demeki. And then also you can find me on Dice Check and on Chapter Tactics.
Cool. And I am Matt. You can find me in the alleyway as long as you guys pay the right amount of money. If you guys if you go into the darkest alleyway you could probably find, I'll be behind you. Anyways, that's it. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you.